So, hi everyone. In the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we're meeting today. We're on Wurundjeri country of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So if you've watched any of these coffee catch-ups, I'm usually the one asking all of the questions in relation to some of our oral health topics, but also how people are actually seeing our new strategic direction. So I'm here with Dave Stevenson, and I've actually swapped chairs. We physically swapped chairs, so I am now in the official hot seat. So I'm going to hand over to Dave to ask me some questions.
Great. So this is then the filming for your end-of-year review. Happy to go through that.
Absolutely happy to publicly announce all the fantastic things that I've done this year.
Absolutely. Now, look, thank you very much for having me. It's exciting. I firstly just wanted to also pay my respects to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and to their elders past, present and emerging as well. So thank you, Sue. Great to be here. We're certainly not doing an end-of-year performance review, but we're here to talk about the strategic direction, which we're very excited about. So, very bold vision, when you think about how do we create a Victoria that's disease and cavity free. When you've got a chronic illness like poor oral health, I think 93% of the people who come to public health agencies or ADHM present with tooth decay. What does that mean for you, that vision?
I think for me, it means that we're actually going upstream. So we've spent a long time in oral health and in health in general with the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. And we take people to the fix-it shop to fix things. And I think our new vision really gives us the impetus to look upstream and go, how do we actually prevent poor oral health? How do we actually make sure that the population understands the importance of it? But not only the community, but the actual health population as well. How do we make sure that, our GPs understand the importance of poor oral health, but also how do we make sure that those people who work in social housing understand the importance of oral health? So how do we actually get the population to understand why this is so important? And I had when you talk about that ambulance at the bottom of the hill analogy, people say we need to put a fence at the top of the hill. I don't think we need to put a fence at the top of the hill. I think we just need to teach people not to walk on the edge of the hill. So how do we actually embed that into everything we do in Victoria?
Yeah, it makes sense. And so when you talk about then the population, it feeds into a little bit of the stages and ages. So right the way from pregnant women all the way to people who are 65 plus. So maybe can you talk about how does that service offer change depending at which age our patients are?
So from the ages and stages point of view, we know that poor oral health, it's a chronic disease, and we know that different interventions work at different stages of people's life course. So the importance of that age and stage and life course approach is to make sure that the interventions and the preventative messages are actually targeted at the right group, and that we are looking at it from different angles when we actually look at the different stages of people's lives. So what's important to a pregnant woman is vastly different to what's important to a person who is, in a nursing home, for example. So making sure that we're actually really targeting those messages to the right place.
Great. Fantastic. And I know we've spent a lot of time at the board and the executive team as well about how important our people are. And so firstly, I just wanted to say a huge thank you very much to everyone in RDHM, DHSV and out in the agencies, because without you, none of this vision and none of this plan will come to life. But when you think about those people, what message would you give to our staff about the role that they play in delivering against this strategic direction?
I think it's really important for us to be very clear with our people around what's in it for them. So how do they actually contribute to this new strategic direction? What's the role that they're playing on a daily basis, regardless of what their role is? For example, our patient liaison team who greet everybody at the front door. If that's a great experience for the patient, then they're more likely to come back and they're more likely to actually interact with the system. But if it's not a great experience, then they're more likely to go, I'm going to put off going to see the dentist, or I'm going to put off going to see RDHM. And often for people with poor oral health, walking through the front door is the hardest part. So how do we make sure that DHSV is building its brand and building its profile. So people go, yeah, that is a safe place for me to go. That's a great place for me to go and get care or get information. And I think even if you look at our back of house teams that aren't actually talking to patients on a daily basis, if our accounts people aren't paying our bills on time, then our reputation is damaged. So how do we maintain all of those things so people look at DHSV and go, that's a great organisation to work with or to work for or to be a part of?
Great, fantastic. And I've heard you talk a bit about growth mindset. And sometimes some of these terms are just viewed as being, hey, that's a little bit of this broad term, but what does it really mean, and what does it mean for our teams?
It's really around, and we'll talk about, one of your final questions is a couple of words, but it's about that curiosity. How can we do things differently? So we know that we've spent generations with the ambulance at the bottom of the hill, as I said before. So how do we actually change what we do? And how do we look at what we do every day and go, is that making a difference? Or are we actually just doing it because we've always done it? So I think it's really about that curiosity piece and actually understanding, but why? When you're a little kid, you went, well, I did to my mum, drove her nuts, but why? And often she'd say, because I said so, rather than an explanation. I think it really is, how do we get back to that curiosity as a young person to figure out how can we do things better?
Yeah, fantastic. Couldn't agree more. And so one of the big shifts we're seeing in the strategic direction is that third pillar, when we've talked about empower, care and lead. And that lead notion becomes really important when we talk about partnerships. So who are the people we're trying to build, or organisations we're trying to build partnerships with, and how are we going to do that?
It's really broad, and I think that's going to be the challenge for us. Where are we going to build the best partnerships that are going to give us the biggest bang for our buck? So, obviously our university partners are highly important because that's how we actually build the workforce for the future. It's how we actually make sure that the research that we're doing gives us best practice. Make sure that we've got things that are aligned really clearly around what is the best evidence in oral health care. So our university partners, really critical. Our department partners, because they're our funders, really important that we actually work with them on a regular basis. And they are so supportive of our new strategic direction. Everybody we've spoken to in the department is really keen for us to continue down this pathway. So keeping in touch with them and making sure that we're providing them information around how we're proceeding and how we're doing. Are we actually delivering what we said we were going to deliver? I think the other big partners for us are obviously our community agencies, and how do we bring them on this journey? So having those conversations and being out and meeting and talking to them about what's their role in our strategic direction. And we get feedback from them on a regular basis saying, that's DHSV's job, not our job. And it's really about how do we join the dots for them and get them to understand that what they do on a daily basis totally impacts our ability to reach our vision. So I think that's probably the key partnerships that we're working with at the moment, and how do we make sure that they understand again what's in it for them, what is it that they're contributing, and being able to give that information back to them on a regular basis to go, see, when you did this is the outcome we achieved together.
Yeah, great. I love that spirit of together, because I think, again, we can't do this on our own. So it's great. So no doubt, when we've got this strategic direction in place, some things are going to not work.
Yeah.
We're going to have some challenges, some things will go wrong. What are you expecting those challenges to be, and then how are we going to overcome them?
I think one of the big challenges for us is that this is such a bold vision. We could take this in a whole stack of directions. So it's about how do we make sure that we're focused about what we do? How do we make sure that what we're doing is actually achieving the outcomes that we want? So the challenge for us is being able to measure that. And it's one of the challenges that we talk about on a regular basis, our ability to track our improvements over time. So I think that's going to continue to be a challenge for us, but we are working on how we actually do that better. But also I think we have a tendency in DHSV to try and run before we're walking. So how do we make sure that we're bringing the whole team with us on this journey and not just pockets of it? And I think that's going to be the challenge for me as the leader, but also for the leadership team within DHSV to actually make sure those communication channels are really clear and that people are very clear about what it is that we want them to do, and also very clear about what we don't want them to do.
Yeah, great. Agree. So we talked a bit about this strategic direction, and it doesn't have a time frame, so different to our strategic plans previously, where it's a 5-year plan. So how are you feeling about the future, and what do you see in store around the corner for us?
Oh, I think that I was saying to the team the other day, it feels like we're off the precipice. We've been standing on the precipice for a while, and I think we've actually now jumped off. We've got a really solid parachute with us, or actually it might even be a hang glider perhaps, because I think there's so many things that are aligning for us as we're moving in this new strategic direction. Our value-based healthcare work is being internationally recognised. The department are very keen for us to help them on their value-based healthcare journey. So I think there's lots of work for us to do in that space. I think our strategic direction around prevention and early intervention is really absolutely the right thing to do, and there's so much support for us to continue to do that. So we can see a broader group of people. We can actually change the face of the Victorians' oral health, and I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to, as we finish up, if you had to pick one word to describe how good the board was, what would that be?
Brilliant.
Okay, great, perfect. No.
Brilliant and supportive.
Thank you. Happy with those two words. No, on a serious note, if you think about all the people who are in DHSV, RDHM, out in the agencies, watching this, what would be the one word you'd want them to write down on their notebook coming out of this session?
It's that curiosity would be if people are continuously asking, why are we doing this? Why is this improving the outcome for a patient or the experience for a patient? If the answer is yes, then we should do it. If it's no, then we should really think about it. Are we doing the right thing? Could we be doing something else? If it's actually improving the experience for our staff, is it the right thing to do? Yes. If it's not, then maybe we shouldn't be doing it. Maybe we should think about something else to do. We have got so many things that we could do, so it really is about getting focused around what is it that will improve the outcomes for our patients and our staff. If we continue to do that and be curious about that on a daily basis, we'll go ahead in leaps and bounds.
Yeah, fantastic. And it feels like those themes around trust and empower. So for people when they are curious, to be able to back themselves, to be able to make some of those changes, because again, we've got great confidence in the team. So with that, I want to say thank you very much. How's it felt to be on the other side of the couch?
It's much harder than being on that side of the couch. I think I prefer that side, please.
Great.
So I'm going to go back to the yellow chair, folks.
Perfect. But thank you very much. Well done. Again, we've got great confidence in you and your team to deliver on this very exciting strategic direction. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for taking your time.
All good. Thanks, everyone.